Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're probably seeing the beginning of the end. Dallas Cowboys are moving on from Dak Prescott. Reports came out that Dak and the Cowboys have a mutual understanding of the contract situation. What the fuck is that? Bruh. Apparently, this is Dak's final year of his contract. Obviously, in situations like this, we saw this, 3 years ago? Dak had to play out his contract before he got a new deal from Jerry. And now it looks like the Cowboys are doing the same thing again. Microphone is about to get right into it, but there were early indications. I'm not gonna lie. Sources might believe that the Cowboys are really gonna move on from Dak because they want that Sanders boy. Yo, but there's a couple of whispers in the wind that's indicating that the Cowboys might be actually trying to pay attention to next year's draft, where word on the street is saying that they're possibly gonna go after Shedeur Sanders from Buffalo. This is big. This might very well mark the end of Dak Prescott as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I know Cowboy Nation, you guys are indifferent when it comes to Dak. Some of you guys love him. And then you have the other fans who are kind of done with Dak. When it comes to it, at the end of the day, a lot of your seasons have been anticlimactic, especially after last season's loss to the Green Bay Packers, where, don't even get me started on that one. That one just kind of shook the world up. But, yo, you heard it here first. Shedeur Sanders might be heading to the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys might be telling Dak, hey, you're just not that guy, buddy. You're not that guy.
Of the Cowboys being the one team that have not gone all in.
Your definition of what is all in and mine might not be the same thing.
And they've literally are the only team to have basically done nothing so far.
I have been getting asked this question so many times recently.
Mike, where is the Dallas Cowboys content? Your Dallas Cowboys haven't done anything.
I was waiting to cover the teams that
For real.
actually did something during the offseason before covering my favorite team that didn't really do much this offseason, except sign Eric Kendricks, which was a solid move. Now, I think this all means one particular thing. It has a lot to do with Dak Prescott and his future with the Dallas Cowboys. So, what's going on, everybody? This past season was very similar to every other season the Cowboys have had over the past decade when they were even close to contention. We played remarkably in the regular season and then shit the bed in the playoffs, something that I've grown very accustomed to as a Dallas Cowboy fan. And once the season concluded, Cowboy fans were all scattering to say various different things. Some people said,
I want Dak Prescott gone. He stinks.
Other people said,
I want Mike McCarthy gone. He stinks.
Then there were some people that just left the team as fans altogether, and I really can't blame you. It's been very tough year after year getting your hopes up for a great season, especially this past season, which was probably the most heartbreaking season to date, where we finished as a second seed, made it into the playoffs, and then became the first second seed to ever lose to a seventh seed in the playoffs. We would have had home field advantage throughout all of the playoffs, and it was the first home game we ever lost this year. And at a specific point, you wonder, how can it get any better? When you
That's
get to
embarrassing.
Look at the Cowboys offseason, they only lost players, and they signed Eric Kendricks. Leighton Vander Esch's career was officially ended due to a dirty hit by Trent Williams, and he officially retired. Tyler Biadasz.
Hold on, I didn't even see the dirty hit.
Due to a dirty hit by Trent Williams, and he officially... Leighton Vander Esch's career was officially ended due to a dirty hit by Trent Williams, and he officially retired. Tyler Biadasz was poached by the Washington Commanders. Dorrance Armstrong was poached by the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn is now the head coach of the Washington Commanders. Cowboys cut Michael Gallup, but that's because Michael Gallup is one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL. They lost Tony Pollard, but I was okay with that because Tony Pollard really wasn't the same since the 2023 playoff matchup when he got injured versus the San Francisco 49ers, and they lost Tyron Smith to the New York Jets. This is definitely a tough blow, considering the fact that when healthy, Tyron Smith is one of the best left tackles in the NFL, but that's the problem. He had trouble staying healthy. And when you consider the Dallas Cowboys cap situation, it's not really a shock that all of this happened. But some Cowboy fans are shocked that they haven't improved at all whatsoever because Jerry Jones said this.
Okay, your definition of what is all in and mine might not be the same thing, but I'm trying to win the games this year with my decision.
Now, this one clip went viral, and I found it very funny that this one clip went viral because his son, Steven, also said this.
I've never known Jerry not to be all in any given year, but, certainly, we've got I think, a great team put together.
I'm not going to hold you, bro. It's no secret. Dak ain't Jerry's quarterback, bro. Cowboy Nation, you guys know it. The smart ones know it. Like, you could see it. Dak and Jerry don't have, like, this healthy, what kind of relationship they're not Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning, bro. You know what I mean? They're not Andy Reid And, well, Andy Reid is a coach, but I mean, shit. There's certain players that have great relationship with ownership and management. Even when Jerry gave Dak that first contract, he basically said publicly, that he got bamboozled. Like, you had an opportunity to sign him a year prior, you didn't, and because you didn't sign him a year prior, you actually had to give him like $40 million extra the following year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry, does something slick where he makes Dak play out this last season, and then we'll really see what goes down next season. But this is just setting up to be another toxic, filled with drama and narratives with the Cowboys, bro. Like, Dak is going to be playing on the final year. He's not going to be happy about that. That's equivalent to being franchise tagged. An NFL player knows any season could be your last year. The only insurance you have is guaranteed money in a long-term contract. If you're not going to give it to your quarterback, the most important position out of all of them, that's only going to be a distraction the whole year.
I think the last 3 years, won a lot of football games. I think 36. And
second most of the Chiefs.
Where we have to improve is the postseason.
Only the Chiefs have won more games than the Cowboys in the past 4 years.
Plays in the postseason. And, it's been a challenge in terms of our success there, and that's where we have to improve.
Are there any answers that you guys have kind of come up with as to what's going on?
No.
We're taking a holistic view of this thing, and we'll continue to look at it. Obviously, being here at the Combine is going to be, a great time to spend some time in terms of looking not only at the young players that are going to be out there, but just spending time, together.
Young quarterbacks?
Internally, spending a lot of time talking about, what we have to get accomplished, we think, in order to take the next step.
The last time I made a video on the Dallas Cowboys, we discussed Dak Prescott. What should they do with Dak Prescott? It's way more complicated than you think. Is Dak Prescott good or Dak Prescott bad? If
He's good.
Dak Prescott good, extend Dak Prescott. A lot of this has to do more with Dak Prescott's contract than Dak Prescott the player. And to be honest, the parallel you could draw for Dak Prescott's career is pretty much Kirk Cousins, with all due respect.
Easy, yeah,
he
word.
has the ability to fill up the stat sheet and look like one of the most prolific players in the NFL. There are moments where he puts forth masterful performances, and then there are moments that just make you scratch your head. Sometimes he succeeds in big moments, and sometimes he fails. Throughout his career, he's 2-5 in the NFL playoffs. One of those victories came in his rookie season. Another one of those victories came last year against Tom Brady. So here's where it gets pretty interesting. After signing Dak Prescott to a 4-year extension during the 2020 offseason, paying him 4 years and $160 million, the Cowboys restructured Dak's contract during each of the previous 3 off seasons so they could get immediate cap space. Pretty much imagine a road and kicking a can further down a road over and over and over again. As a result, entering the off season, the Cowboys were $8 million over the salary cap, which was the 6th worst cap situation in the league. That's because the Cowboys kicked the can so far down the road that in 2024, Dak Prescott's cap hit is over $59 million, which is over 22% of the salary cap. Dak is set to make $34 million next season, $29 in base salary, and a $5 million roster bonus, which was recently paid out, in addition to some voidable years added onto his contract. Now, if the Cowboys do nothing, Dak Prescott would still return this year, but you would also need to pay up the biggest single season cap hit ever, and on top of that, you're going to lose a lot of supporting players, which the Cowboys did. This also limits the Cowboys' ability to extend Micah Parsons, which they have to during the 2026 offseason, and CeeDee Lamb, which they need to work on an extension with him by the 2025 offseason. The Cowboys also can't tag Dak Prescott next season, and he becomes a true unrestricted free agent after this next season, very similarly to Kirk Cousins. Now, what the Cowboys did was they restructured his contract by adding voidable years, which means they extended the road in which the Cowboys can kick the can down the road to make the cap hit even worse. And the only way really out of this is to trade Dak Prescott to another team and save $34 million. But Dak has a no trade clause. Now, something else the Cowboys could do is extend Dak Prescott, which would also give them more years to restructure his salary and to kick the can further down the road or allocate his cap hit accordingly. But a Dak Prescott contract extension could reach $60 million.
I believe that Dak Prescott is going to reset the quarterback market and get in the vicinity opportunity of $60 million this offseason.
So this brings us to where we are currently. Originally, the assumption was that the Cowboys were going to extend Dak Prescott no matter what, but they opted for a restructure in 2028, which means that they're avoiding
Dak is 30.
2028. Now, Dak can still become an unrestricted free agent in 2025, and if the salary cap keeps going up, it'll be way easier to stomach Dak Prescott's cap hit. But the thing that's very shocking about this is the Cowboys aren't making win now moves. If you're a team that thinks that they're on the precipice of winning a Super Bowl, typically you'll be aggressive in free agency to try to fill out the remaining parts of your roster. But in the case of the Cowboys, they didn't do anything of the sort. They signed Eric Kendricks to a one-year prove-it deal, and that's about it. And the fact that there hasn't been an extension up until this point means that the Cowboys might be willing to let Dak Prescott hit the market in 2025. Now, obviously, moving on from Dak Prescott means that there are going to be some rough years for the Cowboys coming soon, primarily because even if you move on from Dak, you still have the cap hit that Dak gave you. You'll still count for his cap hit next year if he leaves, and this puts the Cowboys in a very, very interesting situation. Essentially, the situation the Cowboys are facing now is Dak could play this final season with the Dallas Cowboys with a much downgraded roster from last year, admittedly so, with some key pieces missing from the defense. We still haven't figured out what Stephon Gilmore's future is going to be. We lost our defensive coordinator. We lost our starting running back. We lost our left tackle. We lost our center. So obviously it's going to be a much more downgraded roster. And based off of that, you could assume that the Cowboys are going to take a step back this year before letting Dak Prescott join another team the year after, in which the Cowboys are going to have $50 million against the salary cap. And as a result, in 2 years from now, you're talking about a team that could feature Trey Lance starting at the quarterback position, which would solve the cap problem.
I forgot all about Trey Lance being there, bro.
With Trey Lance under center, you're talking about a team that would be in the market for a brand new quarterback during the 2026 NFL draft. Is this something they should entertain? It really depends on how your perspective on the Cowboys are currently. Do you think you're a Super Bowl contender with a downgraded roster and Dak Prescott as your starting QB? Well, according to Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, no, they're not. And to be honest, they're absolutely correct. According to Ian Rappaport, the Dallas Cowboys and quarterback Dak Prescott have a mutual understanding of his contract situation, sources say, with no offers from Dallas despite him being in a contract year. Owner Jerry Jones said, "We are where we are, locked and loaded for this year. There's no indication that a deal is coming," which means that the Dallas Cowboys have no interest in kicking the can further down the road in order to try to make it work with Dak Prescott, which also means he isn't going to be paid as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL this year. With that being said, Ian Rappaport just says straight up that this appears to clear the path for Dak Prescott to test free agency in 2025. As a Cowboy fan and a man that just genuinely likes Dak Prescott and the person he is and what he's overcome, I think Dak Prescott is very good on a Kirk Cousins-like contract, meaning the 10th highest paid QB in the NFL. I don't think he's good as the highest paid QB in the NFL. I don't think the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders with a downgraded offense and a downgraded defense and Dak Prescott being paid a significant amount of money. Dak Prescott isn't Patrick Mahomes, and at this point he's proven to me that he can't even get it done, even if you get him a great offense and a great defense. So if that's the case, you should pivot to trying to do everything in your power to manage your assets properly. You need to figure out a way to keep Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb under contract for the foreseeable future, or at the minimum, trade CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons for a package that's worth CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons. Meaning, if the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons for what the Raiders traded Khalil Mack for,
I'll tell you one thing, they're not letting go of Parsons or CeeDee.
I would be able to stomach that because there's no point in keeping one of the most versatile edge rushers in NFL history if you're about to head towards a rebuild. And the reason why I'm thinking this is where the Cowboys are heading, it's because whenever you avoid overspending in free agency and you're focusing on the draft to refill your roster, typically you're implying to your roster that you're trending towards a rebuild. The only thing that is potentially going to hold the Cowboys back is the fact that Jerry Jones might not want another rebuild rebuild happen because, hate to say it, Jerry Jones might not be able to see this brand new rebuilt team. It makes sense that the Cowboys are at least entertaining moving on from Dak Prescott because Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott are entering the final years of their contracts. The Cowboys made a move that's very atypical for them when they traded a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. Having Trey Lance sit down in a developmental role behind Dak and Cooper Rush and not rushing him to start may have been a ploy by the Dallas Cowboys to make sure there was an insurance policy in the event Dak Prescott walks after this season. At the end of the day, I think Dak Prescott is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think he's good enough to carry an offense all by himself, kind of how Patrick Mahomes did this past year for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's the type of player that can win a Super Bowl if he's paid a reasonable contract for his talent and you surround him with talented pieces on offense and defense. And I definitely think at the very bare minimum, he's a top 6 QB in the NFL. But if Kirk Cousins left the Minnesota Vikings following this past year, despite being in a great situation with Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson, what makes you think that Dak Prescott won't leave the Dallas Cowboys after this year if he is not paid the contract he wants? I really think either scenario is plausible here, and originally I felt like the Cowboys were more likely to extend Dak than to move on from Dak, but the fact that they haven't extended Dak yet makes me think that they're at least entertaining another possibility. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this? What do you think the Cowboys should do? The dream scenario would be to trade Dak Prescott and you're out of salary cap hell. If you think you're not going to win a Super Bowl with this current roster, which with all due respect, you're not, I'm sorry to tell you, it doesn't look like this team is capable of winning a Super Bowl. You pretty much have the same team as last year, only with a lot of your key players gone. Then I can understand moving away from Dak Prescott and at least getting something for him. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments section down below. Aside from that,
Cowboys releasing Dak Prescott? I'm gonna go out on the limb, right? I say the Cowboys don't re-sign Dak Prescott. They allow him to play this final year. Now, Dak is gonna find himself in kind of like, not the same Kirk Cousins scenario. I think he's gonna find himself in an Aaron Rodgers like scenario where, you know how Green Bay drafted Jordan Love, even though Aaron Rodgers was out here winning back-to-back MVPs and shit, and he's asking for more talent, and you guys go and draft a quarterback. I think Dak is going to be in a situation where this has to be like an MVP-like season to force the Cowboys to give him the contract that he wants. Because personally, here's how Dak wins. If he gets re-signed to another 5-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys, he resets the quarterback market. He's now one of the highest paid quarterbacks, and he stays the face of the franchise. Like, I'm the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. You know what kind of lifestyle that brings? Different. And now, if the Cowboys don't re-sign him, he walks. What do we know about free agency? They overpay everyone. Kirk Cousins got $100 million coming up for torn Achilles. Kirk Cousins, who also has, 2 playoff games, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe? I'm not going to say 3. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say 3. But we're talking about a man with 2 playoff games, over the age of 30, coming up for torn Achilles, and Atlanta gave him $100 million. Yeah, that Kirk Cousins. So if that's what Kirk Cousins could demand, you can only imagine the Dak Prescott, who's relatively younger, a couple of years younger than Kirk Cousins, and isn't coming off a significant injury, who's fresh. Dak is in a win-win scenario, but I think in all essence, Dak wants to stay and remain a Dallas Cowboy. So not only is he going to be pissed coming into this season, but he's going to be motivated to have the best season he possibly can. Dak is honestly trying to win a championship. Now, is he capable of winning it? I'm out on that bandwagon. I think the Cowboys are low-key hoping Dak fails, so they have every reason to move on from him, save the cap salary situation, go after Shedeur Sanders, you know what I mean? Because Dion came out publicly and said that, yo, there's certain cities that my son is not going to play for, so I'm just letting y'all know. Even Hunter's my second son. We're not staying foot in your town, so don't even think about it. That's what Dion said publicly, son. So, and if you know, Dion has a great relationship with old man Jerry Jones, who loves quarterbacks. And Shedeur might potentially find his way as a Dallas Cowboy fan. And in essence, that's when we start, I guess, the rebuild. I don't think the Cowboys should move on from Micah or CeeDee Lamb. Come on, they're part of what Cowboys always do every era, every generation, every decade. They always have a star pass rusher and a star wide receiver. It just is what it is. The 88 club. You don't move on from that. CeeDee Lamb is really him. So it's going to be interesting to see, but this season is going to be filled with so much distractions when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Dak is playing for it all, even though he's in a win-win situation. I think the Cowboys are hoping he loses. And get this, Mike McCarthy's also on his final year, all right? And we've been Mike McCarthy should have been gone maybe 2 seasons ago, but last year, he kind of gave you a reason to pick up that last year option because it's like, all right, you guys were impressive, even though you got shellacked by the Packers. What y'all did, second seed, like, we can't fire you the season after you gave us a second seed. But I'm also believing that the Cowboys hope McCarthy fails and goes after Bill Belichick. Oh, yeah. I think Bill Belichick sat out for a reason. I think he didn't like the teams available, and he's sizing up his next move. I don't think Bill Belichick has done, nothing came out to say that he was retired. I believe that the Cowboys are hoping Dak and McCarthy fails. They're going to sign Bill Belichick, and Eagles aside, I don't know how they're going to do, who's going to be the GM. Eagles aside, I think Jerry Jones goes after the GOAT head coach and goes after a young, rising rookie quarterback, and they're going to rebuild with Bill Belichick in the near future. That's just my prediction, but we'll see. This is the Cowboys are moving on from Dak Prescott, and I think it's about time. You know what I mean? We've seen the Tony Romo era. You guys let me know in the comment section where you rank Dak as an all-time Cowboys quarterback. But he's underachieved. And it's always going to be about winning at the end of the day. You guys have the second most wins to the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's the Chiefs and then the Cowboys in terms of wins in the last 5 years. Only difference is the Chiefs have a dynasty. And you guys have a first-round exit to a quarterback named Jordan Love in his first season. I'm going to holler at you guys next video, man. Mamba out.